Hello guys, I'm back for a second video of the night. This is Dwayne from Doozer's Customs and Restorations. So I posted a couple videos showing mostly painted bodies, and I've got a lot of feedback and questions regarding the paint I use and how I do it and some of the stuff that I do. I realize I'm new to the community, so by no means am I telling anybody how to do what they do. I see a lot of you guys' videos and you do amazing paintwork yourselves. Just to answer the few questions that I did get, I will go over some of the stuff that I do. If you pick up something that you can do different that might help you, that's awesome. If you have any feedback or concerns, questions, or ideas of what I could do better, I'm open to suggestions as well. It's a great part about this community. We all share ideas and we all talk about different things, and a lot of this stuff I learned from watching YouTube videos. A lot of this stuff I learned from being around my brother and my dad, who are both bodymen and painters and have been in the automotive industry for a long time. I work in a graphics outfit. We sell large and grand format digital print, so some of my tips and tricks come from that as well. So without further ado, here we go. The one thing that I would say is I spend a lot of time on surface prep. Getting the model ready for paint is one of the keys. Clean environment, so on, all that is all very important. So the first thing you need to know is I use sanding sticks, sanding foam, files, and sandpaper. So one of the tips that I learned from one of the guys on the YouTube community is to get these little Tupperware containers, and you buy the sheets and you pre-cut them. So you got little pieces of workable sandpaper right there at your disposal. And if you look over there, I got 4 or 5 different grades, always ready to go, always ready to be used. So the other thing you need to do is cleaning. So you've always got to have a tack cloth available for removing dust. Another product that I don't have here to show you, but it works really well. You can get it at any drugstore, and it's called 99% isopropyl alcohol. And you spray that on your model and you wipe it off with a cloth or paper towel, and it removes fingerprints, greases, oils, airborne silicones, anything that'll cause the paint not to stick. So between tack rags and isopropyl alcohol, always be prepping your surface. Sand it down, dust it, wash it with soap and water, clean it, have a dust-free environment, have a paint booth if you can, and paint when the weather's good, that sort of thing. So of course primer is very important. I like to use fillable, sandable primers. I use a lot of Tamiya paints. I find their primer works best with Tamiya paints, so if I know I'm using Tamiya paint, I use the Tamiya primer. It's a little on the expensive side, but it lays down really smooth. It sands out really nice. It's a really good product. I do like it. My fallback is this Duplicolor filler primer. This stuff's cheap and it works really, really well, dries really fast, and it's sandable. You can get it in the black, the brown, the white, or the gray. I find the gray works the best. The white tends to take a little bit longer to dry for whatever reason, so I do like to use that. I use it quite a bit. I use the Duplicolor paint. It's cheap. You get it at your auto parts store. Limited in colors, but it's nice, easy to use, lays down pretty good. I like it as a product for sure. A little catastrophe there. I use Testors paints. This stuff's a Boyd enamel paint, but any of the spray can Testors, there's several different brands. Most of them are all the same. The key to this stuff is make sure you shake it up really good before you use it. And I also like to warm it in hot water. So I'll fill a sink with hot water and I'll drop the can in, because if it's too cold, it tends to spatter or spit if you spray right from the can. The other thing that I like to do is I decan it. So you take a little bendy straw and you spray in one end and you spray into a cup like that, and then you can spray it through your airbrush. I find I get a lot more control and I can get a lot more even paint job by using the airbrush. So take it out of the can, spray it through the straw, into that, pour it into your airbrush, and use it that way. Now if you want to use it out of the can, it's fine, but like I said, I try to make a point to warm it up and make sure it's nice and usable that way. Another thing that I use is these little pipettes, they're called. Use them for distributing paints. You can get paint out of the bottle. put it into the airbrush. It's just a nice, clean, neat way to use stuff and to work with it. So I find that's really good. Like most guys, I do the spoon test. So you can always color match, see how your primer is going to work. Make sure that you're not going to get any undue effects, any orange peel or separation or cracking or spidering or any of the bad things that you get once in a while. And you can always see what the color is going to look like. I find the primer and the base coat affect the color a lot, so I like to do a couple of tests, different primers, different base coats to get the effect that I want. Sometimes I use the little Tamiya bottles, use the little pipette, and you can use these through your airbrush. You can also brush them, whatever works. Another paint that actually works quite well is the Spastics. So this is a Chrome Illusion Effects Spastics that I showed last video on the little tuner car. I've got several colors from these guys. Not too bad for price point, and they work really well through the airbrush. There's a couple other products similar to that. I've actually haven't used the Craft Acrylics a whole bunch, but from what I see, they look like they work pretty well as well. Testers makes their racing finishes, so you can get nice color matches and different stuff like that. Again, I can airbrush it or I can brush paint it, whatever works for the application. This is another Model Master paint, same sort of thing. You can brush it, you can airbrush it, you can do whatever. The old tester bottles, I think everybody's had these at some point in their modeling career. You can spray these, you can hand brush them, you can use them any way that you want. Another paint that I like to use for my interiors and some of the other are the Vallejo airbrush. These can be brush painted as well if need be. They got lots of neat colors. I really like the diversified colors. A lot of them are made for military and stuff like that, so you get lots of mattes and different colors like that. The Molotow Chrome pen. I don't know if all you guys know, but you can buy the refill canister. It's expensive, but you can spray the chrome. And the nice stuff about this is you can spray it right over. You don't have to spray a black base first. So I don't know if you're familiar of using the Accolade, but this you have to spray over a black base first. So you got to spray the black Accolade first, and then you got to spray this over. Awesome metallizer effects, but the chrome, you don't have to use that. Accolade also has, I'll skip to that later. I use a lot of Tamiya spray can. Sometimes I spray right out of the can. Sometimes I decan it as well. Either way works great. Nail polish. Nail polish comes in a lot of really cool colors that you can't get in paint. So sometimes it's neat to get these. Buy a couple of bottles of these, thin them out, spray them through your airbrush. You can get some awesome effects with that stuff. One of the paint brands that I use a lot of nowadays is House of Color. I really like the way the House of Color lays down. I like the way that it sprays down matte and you can sand it and you can work with it. One of the best things about it is it dries really, really fast, so you can mask it and work with it almost right away. So you spray it, let it sit for an hour or so, and you can do it. Some of these other colors you got to let sit for days, weeks, for quite a while. Silver, Orion Silver, it's a nice base. Got lots of different colors. I got quite a few of those. So then I get into the clear coats. So Accolade has three. They've got a matte, a satin, and a gloss. So I use these a lot for like engines, frames, interior, to get different effects, different level of sheen. Really nice product, goes down easy, works real well, so I use a lot of that. This product here is a game changer. This called is Shimmer-On Intercoat. Now what this is it's made by House of Color, and it's a matte clear coat. You just reduce it 2 to 1 with the regular reducer. But this stuff works as a sealer. It works as a, you can sand it. So every time I spray a color, I spray this over top of it. And you just throw a quick coat on it. And what that does is it seals it. So if you want to let it sit for a while, you can reactivate it and work with it. Another trick that I use is when I mask, I spray this stuff over top of the mask. And what that does is anytime that you get a bleed, it bleeds clear, so it seals from the paint, and then you spray your paint coat over and it's not going to bleed because it's already bled into the areas where it's going to bleed. So this Intercoat's a really nice product. I use it quite a bit. Another product that I use is Pearl-Ex. Now, this stuff is a pearlized powder that you can put in very small amounts. You can put it in the clear coat. I've often put it in the Intercoat, and you spray it, and you can get some pretty cool effects over top of other paints by spraying a pearl powder over top of the paint. My clear coat is old school, go-to 3-part urethane clear. So this you mix with an activator and a reducer. It's 8 parts clear, 2 parts activator, and 1 to 2 parts reducer, depending on how you want to do it. And what I tend to do is I do my first coat with 1 part reducer, and I spray it over in a light mist, spray a second coat of a light mist, and then I go a light heavy coat, and then I do a wet coat. And then I let that wet coat sit, and then usually by then I add a little bit more reducer to it and thin it out, and I do a second or third heavy wet coat. And what that does is it takes away most of the orange peel and thins out and makes for a nice smooth glossy finish. So again, it's all in how you do that. What I like to do is if I mix custom colors, I like to mix them in these little bottles so that you don't have to try to match the mix again. You mix up plenty of it, and then if you need to spray it 2-3 times, you've got it already done. So these little squirt bottles work quite well for that. So the other question that I got asked quite a bit about is masking and prep and how I do that. So I've got several different things that I use for masking. Sometimes liquid mask works pretty good. You can paint it on. The nice part about liquid mask is you can paint it on and then you can cut it away for doing detail and different stuff. Or you can brush it into little areas where you can't get masking tape. It's too fiddly or whatever. You can utilize this stuff. Both of these products are pretty good. And I know Molotow Pen also makes a masking pen, which is kind of cool. I've got one. So I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but it's Molotow. Same guys that make the Molotow craft marker. And this is a masking liquid. So you can put mask on with the pen tip. So it's quite neat and comes in useful for doing fine points and stuff like that. So when it comes to masking, I've got a couple of different products. Good old-fashioned fine line. This is actually automotive fine line masking tape. It's a plastic tape. It works really well. Different thicknesses of old paper mask. I find the cheap stuff doesn't work that good. You're better off to buy a good quality masking tape. Tamiya makes an awesome masking. They come in all kinds of different thicknesses. The nice part about this stuff is it's stretchy, it doesn't leave residue behind, and it does seal off quite well. So I like this stuff. I use the Scotch plastic. So this is another similar to the Tamiya, but it's an automotive based. It's plastic, it stretches real good, it's good to go around curves. It works quite well for that. Now another product that I use that a lot of you guys probably don't know about, this is something I get from work. This is TFX Professional Mask. This is for pinstriping vehicles. But the neat part is you can get an even space. So if you need to do space lines or if you want to do 2 different thicknesses of striping, it curves around. It's awesome to work with. The one thing you got to be a little careful of this is it's really aggressive adhesive. So if you don't have a solid paint coat down, you could peel your paint. So you got to be quite careful with it. Sharpline's another manufacturer, and they make this stuff. It's really cool. It's got the thinnest little black lines. Each of those lines is actually a separate piece. So you can peel those off, and you can do some really detailed masking with those. So it's quite neat that way. This tool here is called a squeegee. It's a plastic applicator. I use this to push down. You can only get so much tension with your pressing with your finger, so you use this plastic squeegee to push down. Now the last product that I'm going to show you is something that I use at work. This is called Etchmark. What Etchmark is it's a self-adhesive vinyl that you can cut a shape out of and you can put it on glass and it simulates sandblasted Etchmark. That's what the original purpose is for. So if you see like on a pantry window or a shower door where you want to see a little bit of, you can see that there's a person in the shower, but you can't tell what gender they are. This is the frosted kind of stuff that they put on those windows. And sometimes they use it like in churches and different patterns and stuff like that. So they cut this and they move it. But what I've discovered is I used to use this stuff here, the paper frisket. Now this stuff is good, but I find it's not as pliable and it doesn't hold as well. This stuff here does a much better job of that, and it's bendable and shapeable. You can put it over a curved roof, you can bend it over fenders, you can do awesome work with it. And the neat part is you can cut it away. This is just a quick little test piece that I did, but I laid this etch mark over this model, and then I